right, it is 7:03. We're going to start on time, and this will be recorded. So welcome everyone to the webinar. Good evening. My name is Ariel Herrera. I'll be your host for today, and I'm thrilled to have each and every one of you here. Today, we're going to be discussing AI and automation, creative finance on easy mode. By the end of the session, you will learn how to leverage creative finance strategies to build your real estate portfolio using technology. But first, a couple housekeeping items. As I said, this webinar will be recorded and we will share it with you afterwards as well as on YouTube. And if you have any questions throughout the presentation, then please type them in the Q&A at the bottom of your Zoom screen. We will have a dedicated Q&A session at the end. Feel free to ask any questions in between, and we will try to respond in real time. So here's our agenda for today. We'll start with an intro to the team, followed by market challenges, creative finance, and leveraging AI and data analytics in real estate. Finally, we will have a Q&A session. So let's get started with introducing our first team member, Liam.
Hi, I'm Liam, one of the co-founders of Clozers, and I'm a full-stack developer.
Hi, I'm Maddie. I'm also one of the co-founders. I am the user experience designer, so I design the app and everything you see.
I'm Ariel, the data geek, data scientist, and CTO of Clozers.
And I'm Noah Nagel. I'm a software engineer and a real estate investor.
All right, so just before we get started, and thank you, Ariel, for that intro, we wanted to just say a few words about some of the market challenges that us as investors are facing at the moment, namely high interest rates. And of course, what this means is that our monthly payments are extremely high, and it's very, very challenging to actually make a deal have positive cash flow. Now, for those of you who may be aware of what the sort of classic Clozers website has done until now, it's basically just pulling all the MLS deals in your chosen market and trying to sort of rank them from best to worst by cash flow. But one of the big problems that we've found is that when we actually pull all of the data for all of the major markets nationwide, less than 1% of those deals on the MLS have good cash flow. And so this is a real problem because even if we're ranking properties from best to worst, the pool of potential properties which can work is extremely small. However, what we did a few weeks ago was we ran those same deals, those same MLS deals, under the perspective of seller finance and sub 2. So basically from a creative finance perspective. And what we found was really interesting. We found that approximately 30% of the deals could now work with creative financing terms. So in other words, if we're avoiding the 7% interest rates that the banks are giving us, you could potentially have a 30x larger pool of potential deals that can work. And these deals are ultimately hiding in plain sight because, of course, when interest rates are very, very high, sellers are constantly receiving lowball offers, which they're not very keen on receiving, of course, and it's very, very difficult to close a deal. However, what we found is that with creative finance, there's actually no real need to lowball. Even if you pay full market retail price, shall we say, for a property, as long as you can secure some great terms on the actual creative finance deal itself, you will probably have some good cash flow. And similarly, your seller will also be keen to do the deal because they'll be able to get what they want as well. And my co-founder, Noah, is now going to speak about that in a lot more detail.
Yeah, so hey folks, again, my name is Noah Nagel. I'm a software engineer and an investor. I started investing when I was 19 as a sophomore in college. I was studying computer science and started a business with my girlfriend. We were both out-of-state transplants in Florida and didn't know anything about the local market. For about 3 years, we grinded away working on our business while I was a full-time student. During that 3-year period, she dropped out to work on our business full-time, and we closed about 5 off-market deals total. Most of them were wholesales. Sellers often didn't take us seriously because of our age. And frankly, we were feeling like we were lied to by the internet personalities claiming that wholesaling is easy. It's just not. In the off-market space, we're told to take a stair-step approach to our investing journey. You start out wholesaling to learn how to generate leads, run walkthroughs, talk to sellers, market, build connections, collect a few $1,000s doing that to fund your first flip. Keep rolling that money into more flips, eventually rentals, and then take the leap into the commercial space and syndication. That's the dream, and it is possible. But even if everything goes right for you, it can take years before you even have a shot at replacing your income with cash flow. We pivoted entirely into the creative space when we learned that it was possible to skip directly to the end game of ownership and cash flow without needing much or any money out of pocket. The strategies are just better. We get to go to pretty houses. We don't have to spend anything on cold marketing, managing lists, or CRMs, and I could go to as many appointments as I have time available. The offers I'm making are really, seriously good offers that don't require a distressed seller to work. When we made this pivot, we spent all of our savings at the time on expensive one-on-one coaching with an expert in creative deals. By the way, don't ever do what we did there. It was a risky move, and we got lucky that it worked out. But within 3 months of us starting in creative, we already legally owned our first house. We came out of pocket about $800 to own it, all right after the world was getting shut down for COVID. The property grossed about $1,600 a month, and after our expenses, it made about $350 a month in cash flow. Last year, we sold it and walked away from closing with an $80,000 check. I'll tell you about another deal we did, and it's the house I live in right now. We bought this house just before we got kicked out of our student housing, 2 weeks after I graduated from college. When we bought this house, neither of us had a job. I was making a couple $1,000 a month building software and doing freelance integration work for investors. There was absolutely no chance that we ever would have gotten a bank loan at our income level. But since we learned how to buy houses creatively, we were able to own the home we live in now. And since we've lived here, the house has appreciated very well. And now we have around $70,000 in equity. So I'm not a professional coach or a guru or any influencer or anything like that. I don't have an expensive coaching program or class that I am trying to sell you. My day job is to be the systems engineer for a large real estate investment company in St. Louis. I don't have my income fully replaced with cash flow yet. You might feel that I'd be less qualified to teach this kind of stuff than a professional coach, and that may be true. The difference between me and most gurus, though, is that I'm still actively investing and working on my business. We're a two-person team. I'm not removed from it to the point where I don't understand the reality of buying and selling houses in 2024. I didn't peak in the 90s and haven't lived off coaching revenue ever since. I know from firsthand experience what it's like for people like us to be buying houses right here and right now. Earlier today, I was building lead generation systems for my day job company that does these kinds of deals at a tremendous scale. I know what it takes to do these deals. The only thing I have to sell you tonight is affordable software that will save you hours and help you get more deals. The same is true for Ariel and Liam and Maddie. All right, I'll start off by sharing an intuition with you. Let's assume that a seller is asking $300,000 for a nice, pretty house. For now, take my word for it that both of these offers will work for you. Which do you think the seller would be more likely to accept? $210,000 cash or $345,000 paid over 5 years? Remember, they're asking $300,000. So I'll give you a second to think about it. We're seeing some in the chat here, 345 over 5 years, couple there. All right. Well, yep, okay, here they come. Someone said 210. All right. Well, the answer is that it depends. In most cases, the seller is better off with the paid over time deal, but they may not know that at first, and it will be up to us to show them why it's better. So now we're going to talk about amortization because it's the key to making that higher offer possible. The way debt is paid back has a long history. 3,700 years ago, Hammurabi's code had rules about loan interest. The Romans improved these ideas, and medieval Islamic societies made further advances. In the early modern period, the concept of a mortgage began to form. By the 19th century, European banks created structured repayment schedules, making loan amortization mainstream for large loans. Today, mortgages and other large loans are designed so that people with regular incomes can repay them over many years without huge monthly payments. Every time changes were made, it made the formulas more complicated. The amortization formula for calculating the way these loans are paid is difficult to comprehend, and it doesn't align with our intuitions. What I'm about to tell you is the magic secret ingredient that makes creative finance special. We'll be going through some numbers here, so get ready. Here's an example of how unintuitive the amortization formula is. Let's say I have a loan for $300,000 and I have 30 years to pay it back with a 5% interest rate. At this point, I'm 10 years into my payments and I have 20 years remaining. How much would you think that I will owe at this point? So you may be thinking, well, you're about a third of the way to the end of the loan. So about a third of the 300,000 will be paid off, right? So you might expect that I'll have $200,000 left to pay. According to the amortization formula, my remaining balance after 10 years is about $240,000. How is it possible that after 10 years, I've only paid 20% of the loan back? The banks have hoodwinked us in a clever way. The amortization formula divides your monthly payment into principal and interest, and how much principal and how much interest you pay is different every month. At the beginning of your loan, almost all of your monthly payment is going towards interest, not the remaining balance. As time goes on, you pay less and less towards the interest and more to the principal, but it takes a really long time. About halfway through the loan, you start paying more towards principal than you pay towards interest, and you start building equity really quickly. It's not until about 2/3 of the way through that loan that it's halfway to being paid off. So that's 20 years into a 30-year mortgage until you've paid half the loan off. Ultimately, by the end of the loan, you've paid the bank almost $600,000 for a $300,000 house. They're making double what the house is worth. 30 years is a long time for us, but it's not a long time for the bank. It's good to be the bank. Seller financing and its variations is making the seller the bank. All right, so this is an amortization chart for the loan we've been discussing. I won't go into all the details here, but I'll point your attention to the curves. The red curve shows the total paid over time. You'll notice that it's linear, just going up and to the right from zero. This represents all the monthly payments that you're making. Notice that it ends just under $600,000. You'll pay $600,000 for a $300,000 house over 30 years. The next curve you should notice is the balance, and that's in blue. Remember when we found that 10 years into the loan, we've only paid off 20%? You can see that here. Also, notice how little has been paid down at the 5-year mark. This will be relevant later when we analyze a real deal together. The last curve is the interest, which is green. It skyrockets at first, almost totally aligning with the payment curve. That shows how in the beginning of the loan, almost everything you pay for the first 3 to 4 years is just the interest. The balance doesn't go down much at all. There's a lot more I can say about this chart, and we'll come back to it in Q&A later if we need to. I just wanted to show you a real amortization chart. Okay, so that's enough on the theory side. It's very important to understand amortization and how the banks are making money hand over fist so you can help sellers understand why they should too. At its core, having a good deal is simply a matter of making more per month than you're spending to own a property. This is an oversimplification of a lot of factors, but it's true at least as far as knowing whether or not the deal can sustain itself. Whether or not it's a good deal is subjective, and it depends on your goals. Do you have $1 million evaporating in a savings account and earn a lot, and you just want to deploy your money into investments to multiply? Cash flow may not be an objective for you. You just need to buy as many houses as you can as soon as you can. Are you struggling to make ends meet and aren't as concerned with your net worth in 15 years as making the next meal happen? Cash flow is your biggest priority because it will free up your time and give you financial security. Most people fall between these two extremes. Most of us just want to replace our day jobs with monthly investment income, and if we get really wealthy, that's a nice side effect. So cash flow can help you replace your income if you need to do that, but the real wealth comes from ownership and the way real estate gains value over time. For me, on my first creative deal, we made about $16,000 in cash flow during the first 3 years, but we made $80,000 in appreciation after we sold. We have a big advantage when trying to create cash flow with these deals. Even though the lenders are winning, those of us who get amortized loans are winning too, in a sense. Amortization produces low monthly payments, and this is great when we're concerned with the monthly profit a deal can make. Your monthly payment to the seller is going to be your largest monthly expense, and amortization works in our favor for this. Like I said earlier, having a deal is a matter of making more per month than you're spending to own that property. Let's focus on the first half of knowing whether or not a deal works, and that's the monthly expenses. We call these the holding costs. These are the items you'll need to pay every month to keep the deal stable. Like I mentioned before, the biggest expense is going to be the monthly payment to the seller. In a seller finance deal, the lender is the seller. This chart represents a real deal and assumes we'd be buying it with seller financing and putting a long-term tenant in with a management company. You'll have to pay insurance and taxes if you own a property no matter what. Maintenance can vary, but it's good to expect some maintenance for a rental property. Then we have vacancy, which I'm figuring based on the average vacancy rate for the city. The last expense we have is a management fee, which again is based on city averages. You may not need a management company if you want to self-manage, but make sure you know what you're doing before you try. So that's all of our expenses, adding up to $1,240.30 per month. Now, if I can make more than $1,240.30 in rent, we have a deal that cash flows. For this particular property, market rent is $1,602, leaving us with $363.70 in cash flow that we can pocket every month. That's a lot of numbers to run just for one deal. In most markets, most deals don't actually work out, even if you buy them creatively. This creates a big logistic issue for you. How are you expected to take the time to run these numbers on every deal possible? It's just not feasible to do this at any scale for everything that's for sale. You probably see where I'm going with this, but software can come to the rescue. I've been working with Ariel, Liam, and Maddie to help build a system for you that makes the good deals easy to find and runs the numbers for you. So all you have to focus on is the appointment. It'll even help you make the offer. What we'll be doing now is running the numbers on a real deal with Coffee Closers. And as far as we know, there isn't anything else out there that does this on the level that we've built. Liam will have more to say about it, but if you like what you're about to see, you'll get a first mover advantage in your market that can jumpstart or supercharge your investing career, regardless of where you are. We're not going to just give you this information and wish you luck, though. If you feel inspired to take advantage of this cutting edge tech, you'll need to have your questions answered more fully than I have been able to within this short amount of time. So we're launching a community and weekly group coaching sessions where you can speak to me and other investors directly about the specifics of the deals you're working or generally learn this process. The only requirement to be a part of that coaching is that you're a subscriber to the software I'm about to show you. All right, I'm going to take over the control of the screen and I'll show you Coffee Closers. Just a moment. All right. Can you guys see my screen okay? Okay. All right. So this is Creative Coffee Closers. And what we have here is the sample market of Greenville, South Carolina. Now, this is a sample market, which means that you are going to be able to, once you create your account and start your trial, you'll be able to play around with this particular market as much as you'd like. However, if you want the data for your market, you'll have to subscribe to the software and get the data for your market. So what we're looking at here is a list of all the properties in Greenville County, South Carolina that are for sale and listed on the MLS or for rent by owner, for sale by owner. What we've done is for all of those listings, we've pre-calculated out cash on cash return and cash flow. And we're basically seeing them in a descending order generally of how good of a deal they are. And so what we have is we can look at the individual property, go through the photos, and for some of them, we even have distress factors. So this is a for sale by owner. There's a few more back on market, inherited houses are in here somewhere. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at a property and see if at this point in the process, it might be worth making an offer on or trying to go to the appointment. So let's look at this one, 32 Tamwood Circle. Okay, so when I click on a property, it takes me to a more detailed page about the specific deal. And for me, at this stage, what I'm trying to do is go on as many appointments as I can, but I don't want to necessarily waste my time on appointments where it might not be a deal. And so I have to do a little bit of basic disqualification to begin with to even know whether or not that's the case. So we'll come down to the numbers in a second, but let's go through some of these photos because the way I buy houses, the photos are really important to me. So I get a bigger view. Let me actually go full screen here. This might help. What we have, oh, I'm actually going to go out of that. What we have here is, it looks like the front yard. And I can see that this looks like a basement and there's a entrance there. There's some railing here. That might mean that the front door is right there. The driveway is actually nice and big. So that tells me I could probably fit a bunch of cars here, which might open up some other interesting additional exit strategies, but I'm probably going to buy it creatively no matter what. Let's see if we can. Okay, yeah. So here's another side shot. It looks like there's another entrance. That's kind of weird. They've got 3 entrances, and it looks like for different parts of the houses. There might have been an extension at some point, and that might be why. But we've got another entrance here. It's got railing, which is good for accessibility. Okay, and now we're inside the house. And so this looks like this photo is coming from maybe the corner of the other room out towards the street because I can see the driveway here. And some of what I'm noticing, it looks like the walls have been recently repainted. If any of you have ever owned rental properties for longer than about 6 months and you have to kick out your old tenant and get a new one in, you know that tenants destroy walls. They there'll be ketchup on it. There'll be dog marks on them, all kinds of nasty stuff. So these walls, at least right now, they look pretty clean. And so this might have been a recent flip. I can also see that this lighting, this is sort of a recessed lighting. This is not something that you'll see in older homes, which indicates that it probably is an older home, but it's been flipped recently. And we can find when it was sold or when it was built to know that for sure. I'm also noticing this flooring. So this looks from here like it's laminate vinyl plank. That's a nice kind of flooring to have for comfort levels. It's a little bit soft when you step on it. It doesn't feel like you're stepping on rocks. And it has good like acoustic properties. So that's nice to see. Okay, so this looks like the other angle of that same room. And that's interesting. So the front door, it looks like it opens, and then you've got a couple of steps in, you've got access to the basement, and then another step, you've got access to the upstairs. So what this makes me think of is like, this might be a good candidate for a short-term rental where I maybe put a divider around this area and then doors on both of these entrances and then rent out the different sides of this house. That would be a pretty nice cash flow strategy. And it wouldn't require a whole lot of extra renovations, but obviously I'm only looked at 3 photos at this point. Also, it looks like the air handler's right there in the thermostat. So I'm willing to bet that the air handler is right behind this wall. Let's see if we can find the kitchen because the kitchen is important. Okay, here it is. So this stove doesn't look like it's a gas burner because it just seems flat there. So it's probably electric. The countertops, it's kind of hard to tell from the photos. I'd be willing to bet that this is like it's like wallpaper. I don't know exactly what it's called, but it's like a faux surface that you might use to like line stuff, but it looks kind of like stone. And the way I'd be able to know is when I go to the appointment, I could like knock on it. And if it's kind of squishy, it's probably just papered over on wooden countertops or something like that. But if it feels hard as a rock, then it probably is granite or something like that. I'm also noticing this sink. So this sink, this is such a small detail, but this looks like a chrome faucet. And that has kind of gone out of style recently. So that's more evidence to me that this may have been a flip. The chrome faucet thing, I would want to look under the sink and look at the plumbing, because I would want to check that it's got a P-trap. I want to turn on the sink to cold and hot for a few minutes, make sure there's no funny smells, make sure it heats up correctly. But it looks like this might be an original sink since before they did this rehab. Also, if you ever go to an appointment and you don't know this yet, never open refrigerators. You just don't want to do that. All right, I think I've seen enough photos, and at this point, I've determined, okay, the only way for me to get more information about this property would be for me to go there in person. I would again want to look under the sinks. I'd want to stick my head up into the attic and see if I can find signs of insect damage. And if you're hearing all this and you're like, I don't know how to look for those things, you'll get it with experience. But in the beginning, what you can do is, if you're really serious about a deal, you can get a home inspector to come with you to the appointment, or just trust the home inspector after you go under contract to find these things for you. So, all right, that's enough on the photos. Down here, we have the calculator, and this is really what makes Creative Coffee Closers so interesting. So at the bottom, we've got these two boxes, good for you versus good for the seller. Notice on the good for you, it's telling us why this is superior. This particular buying strategy is superior to a traditional mortgage. I'm going to be getting $340 cheaper than a standard mortgage at market rates right now if I buy it for their full asking price. And on the good for the seller, this is your foot in the door right here. Sale plus interest is $320,000. They're asking $279,000. But the sale plus interest is $320,000. So it would be true for me to say to the seller, how would you like it if I paid you $320,000 over the next 5 years? And the trick to getting that timeline down is the balloon. So here we can kind of adjust our settings for how we want to calculate the deal. We're starting at their asking price. I'd probably go a little bit under that just to give myself some equity up front. We're at, looks like, a 10% down payment. You want to get that down as much as you can. And there are exit strategies that pair well with a 10% down payment so that you don't have to come out of pocket at all, but we'll have to get into that in the coaching. 3.5% interest rate's a good starting point with sellers. And then you can work your way up and make sure the deal still cash flows. And then we have the amortization schedule and the balloon term. If you're hearing some of these words that I'm saying and you're thinking, I don't know what that means, I don't know what a balloon is, I can help you with that in the coaching program. But so those are our purchase terms. And what we get is the cash flow. We're expecting about $167 a month and a cash on cash return of 7.2%, which isn't bad. So there's some more stuff we can talk about here. The rent, this is all coming from a very sophisticated rent comping tool at the bottom of this page, but we're expecting a market rent of $1,841. And then under monthly costs, it's going to the statistics for the city, and it's determining insurance and property taxes and even the vacancy, the vacancy and the management fee based on averages for the city. So what that means is, at this stage, again, I'm still in the precursor of whether or not I even go on this appointment. I would want to confirm all of these things in my due diligence before I make a serious offer. But I don't have to call an insurance agent to get a sense of how much I'd have to pay for insurance. I don't have to go onto the county website and look at last year's taxes and then multiply that by like 1.05 to try to estimate what this year's taxes are before dividing that by 12 to get to the monthly, tax rate, right? So it's doing all these calculations for us. And we've even got a management fee here. So, I personally self-manage. So I would zero this out. And that puts us at, $333 a month and a 14% cash on cash return. But I'll set that back for now. I'm going to show you a couple more things on this page, and then I'll move on. Down here, we have a neighborhood map. So I don't live in Greenville, South Carolina. And if I'm an out-of-state investor and I'm not sure where to pay attention, this neighborhood map gives me a generally good sense of which parts of town I might want to look at and which ones I might not. So very helpful context for people that aren't familiar with the area. And this is all based on like census data, income statistics, everything that might be relevant for kind of grading a neighborhood in terms of its quality. And then we've got ranks from A, B, C, D, all the way down to F, I think. So that's the neighborhood map. Very helpful for figuring out which areas are good at looking at. Down here, this is the rental comp tool. I don't have time to get into it right now, but it's very sophisticated and it's reliable. And then down here, we have the contact information for the agent representing the seller. So I have everything I need at this point. I know what I'm going to offer them. I have their contact info, but we have one more trick to get our foot in the door here. So if I click up here at the top right, generate offer, what's going to happen is it's going to take the offer settings that I have set up right now and run them through a piece of software that I made called Offer REI and give us a letter of intent that we can present to either the seller or their agent. So check this out. Imagine bringing this with you to the appointment. You have an offer of $320,000 on a house that's listed at $279,000. If that doesn't get them interested in what you have to say, I'm not sure what will. We're literally saying you can have more than what you're asking. And then it says paid over 5 years, right? So then this is getting into the details, but this is going to get their attention. Now, in an effort to avoid looking like a scam, they're going to have some questions. And this document does a lot of work for us to answer some of those questions before you even have a conversation with that seller or the agent that might not be familiar with these kinds of deals. So it's providing all of this context to them so that when you have a conversation with them, they're not starting at absolute zero in your pursuit of making them become the bank. So there's a whole lot we could talk about here, but this gets your foot in the door. And then once we have that, we can actually send them the offer. So this is something we're still working on, but for emails and text messages, this will automatically send them the offer for you, and then get your foot in the door that way. So that's oh, one more thing. This is something else we're working on. It's in beta right now, but we're working on something called an optimizer. I'm not going to get into exactly what an optimizer is, but it's a really clever field of computer science where you can sort of assign your rule set. Like I want to have a minimum down payment of 5% and a maximum of 30%. I want to have a minimum interest rate of 1 and a max of 7. And I want the seller to earn a minimum of 5%. And then all of those things with respect to a target, this target cash on cash return, I can change this from 7% to say 10% and hit optimize deal. And what it's going to do is it's going to run the numbers until it finds a situation where I hit my cash on cash return target and it's still a good deal for the seller. So that's something we're working on. As far as I'm aware, no one else has done anything like that before. But that's Coffee Closers. I'm going to pass the baton over to Ariel, and she can take you through everything else.
Perfect. Thanks, Noah. So some of you at this stage may be thinking, everything that I just saw, how is that even possible? Well, at Coffee Closers, over the last 12 months, we've been building a foundation to bring data at your fingertips. We've narrowed it down to 3 main factors investors care about in real estate: a cash flowing property, one of minimal renovations, and in an up and coming area. We identified the main source of the problem is manual analysis, making it almost impossible to find a home run deal without days, weeks, and sometimes months of research. But by using AI and data analytics, we've solved each of these 3 pain points. Starting off with cash flow. Previously, in order to analyze a single deal, you would need to retrieve data across multiple sources just to find out that deal doesn't work. Property condition. Previously, in order to determine a property's condition, you had to scour through listings, read descriptions, and view images, becoming a manual and tedious process that is very difficult to scale. Then when it comes to location, in order to find hotspots and up-and-coming areas, it requires extensive data analysis to retrieve data, not at the zip code or state level, but at the local level, leaving many investors to give up or settle for areas they later regretted. So we've turned a slow, manual, and to be frank, quite outdated process that would be difficult to scale without a team and experience into a data-driven platform powered by AI and data analytics. So how do we use AI in coffee closers? It's actually everywhere in our product. So for each property, we retrieve information across multiple sources to ensure data accuracy. Our models fill in missing property information, predict accurate rent values, and identify the best comparables, not just the property's attributes, but location as well. Ever heard the saying, don't trust the comp on the other side of the highway? Yeah, we account for that. To identify the condition of the property, our models look at a multitude of features, with the prominent one being property description. By leveraging deep learning models, we can identify properties that are turnkey, in good condition, or in need of rehab, creating a more accurate analysis of rent and sales. Then moving on to my personal favorite, up and coming areas. As we know, real estate is hyper local. A neighborhood can change drastically in just a few blocks. Therefore, instead of scoring areas on state, county, or the best zip code to invest in, we go even more granular to the neighborhood level. We do this by leveraging models to score an area based on 3 factors: economic data, market data, and amenities for a real-time view, giving investors the confidence to know where to invest based on their strategy. Then for seller information, we identify how motivated an owner is based on multiple distress factors. This allows us to determine which properties are suitable for a creative finance deal. We also use modeling to help find the best terms for a deal, similar to what Noah just previewed. So instead of tinkering around with the numbers in a spreadsheet, and quite frankly, wasting your time doing that, you can instantly know the best terms for you and the seller. So overall, by leveraging AI and data analytics, we are able to create a single score for a property, helping investors determine the best city, neighborhood, and property to invest in by their strategy, simply taking you down from 10,000 properties to 1. So now I'll be handing it off to Liam to speak more about the product offering.
Great. Thank you so very much, Ariel and Noah. So to sort of to launch this new sort of creative product, and we've created a special offer specifically for our early adopters, which is you guys. So we have a monthly and a yearly plan. On the monthly plan, there is a discount of 33% off versus our standard pricing, and this is for a pre-sale specific until the 21st of July. And you can also save an additional 20% with the yearly plan. What you'll get with these plans are 4 different things. The first thing is the creative finance software, which is everything you've sort of seen up until now from both Noah and Ariel. The second thing is unlimited offer letters, which you can generate and then send off to potential sellers. The third thing is access to a community. So you'll basically have access to one another. We're building a little sort of forum whereby we can all sort of interact with each other and help each other with all of the sort of little complexities that can occur with creative finance deals. And then lastly, one of the most important parts is the coaching. Again, because creative finance can be a little bit more complex, what we have is we have weekly group coaching for everyone who's on a subscription. And also we have a one-on-one coaching session for anyone who is interested in the annual plan as well. And what I would say is, look, as you all very well know, I can't guarantee you that you will find the exact, fantastic, perfect creative deal that you want. But what we can guarantee you is that we will do our utmost best to help you with identifying the leads, analyzing those leads, and closing those leads. So you're not alone, and we'd love to help you out. And with that, we will move it on to Q&A.
Excellent. Well, we're going to be starting off with some creative finance questions that were asked. So Noah, first question, could you explain a little bit more on the concept of sub 2?